Hey everybody, it's Grandmaster Ben Feingold here with the new series in our lecture series of openings. Last week we did our first one ever. It was the Carol Con. And this week I've decided to do the French defense. And I'm going to change the board color every week so that each board color, the 5 videos match the opening. So you'll get slightly less confused, only slightly. Okay, so we're going to do the advanced French today. The French defense is similar to the Carol Con in that black wants to play d5, but he wants to protect it with a pawn first. He doesn't want to play the Scandinavian. So, okay. And the difference is in the French, we can play c5 in one move if we want to, instead of c6 then c5, and the drawback is the bishop is blocked, whereas in the Carol Con sometimes the bishop goes here or here. All right, so the advanced variation is, I think, in my opinion, it's the most testing for players like under 2000 because it gains space and black has to play strategically because he can't play bishop d6 or knight f6. He's sort of cramped. The negative behind e5 is we can attack this pawn on d4 many times. And if that pawn ever falls or gets traded, well, that's defending this pawn. So sometimes the center collapses if you have black. Black almost always plays c5. Probably 98% of games, black plays c5. White almost always plays c3. And then knight c6 is the most common move. Black can also play queen b6 or bishop d7 or knight e7. But knight c6 is by far the most common move. And if you play the French defense with black and your opponent plays the advance, or if you always play the advance with white, you're going to get this position over 90% of the time. And there's more than one way for black to play here. When I played the French defense before you were born, I usually played bishop to d7, but queen b6 is the most popular move. I've probably played that also, putting more pressure here and making it difficult for white to develop his pieces, because if white moves the bishop on c1, this pawn's not defended. If I play knight bd2, I'm blocking my bishop and I'm defending my pawn. And if I play bishop d3, which is a nice square for the bishop, often that involves a pawn sacrifice of the pawn on d4 because you're not defending this. Now, since this video series is for players, I'm suggesting beginner to 1400. If you're over 1400, still enjoy it. Bishop d3 not only is a good developing move, but it lets black fall into a trap if black doesn't know this position. It looks like this pawn's defended insufficiently, and black wins a pawn. Unfortunately, that's a blunder, because after bishop b5 check, you lose your queen. You always have to watch out for that in the French defense, that if you're taking something for free on d4, that you're not losing to some tricky check. So in this position, bishop d3 is a common move. What most masters and grandmasters do is after trading, they play bishop d7. And in the previous variation, when bishop b5 check won the queen, bishop b5 is not check. There's a bishop on d7. And it's very difficult to defend this pawn on d4, so most people just sacrifice it and try to gain a lot of time. If you play bishop e3 to defend it, then the queen can take on b2. So the most common way to play is to castle and sacrifice this pawn. And we get this position. And then we can sacrifice another pawn by playing knight c3. It's very dangerous to take that pawn because that opens this line here. Some people do take the pawn. Some get their queen to safety. And some people play a6. So they protect this b5 square from white, doing stuff to black. So white's down a pawn, maybe two, and black's going to make a lot of queen moves, which isn't good. This isn't good. So, okay, so it's a very tricky position. And white can also not sacrifice a pawn by playing bishop e2 or a3. a3 prevents black from ever playing knight here or bishop here later, and it prepares to play b4 and try to have a bind on the position where black can't do anything. Against a3, the most common move is to play c4, which stops this from moving due to the en passant rule. If you moved it, you would lose it. And then black usually castles queenside because the queenside is closed, and it's a big strategical fight, which I don't like either side of. It's too difficult. I don't like it. Other people like it. And after bishop e2, black can move his knight and try to get it to f5. This is a very common idea in the advanced French. You can't play knight f6, like ever. So you want to play knight f5, either via e7 or h6. Then you put more pressure on this pawn. And there's negatives to both. Some people don't like when white takes this knight, and some people don't want to take that knight because the queen takes b2, which is very tricky. And some people don't like to play knight e7 because it blocks the bishop. So they're worried about something like takes, and their queen's going to make a lot of moves. That's for you to decide if you like one over the other. And you want to get your knight to f5. That's a key square. Then you're putting tremendous pressure on the d4 pawn. So those are the ideas in the advanced French. Sometimes black's king gets in trouble because he's not castled, hasn't developed his pieces. Sometimes white loses this pawn and his center falls apart. And sometimes white blunders this pawn, especially at the lower levels. They're so concerned with this pawn, they forget their b pawn's also attacked. So the advanced variation is very tricky. It's an excellent opening for both players. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to get this position whether you're white or black. This is Grandmaster Ben Feingold with our newish opening series. Each opening will do 5 videos. And this is the French defense this week, and we're doing the advanced variation. I hope you enjoyed that. Please like and subscribe and follow us on Twitter and the YouTube and then the other YouTube page and the Twitch page. And, if you see us driving somewhere, well, don't follow too close. See you next time. Bye.